If you think you felt a great disturbance in the force, you're not wrong. Ed Gross and me, Mark A. Altman, have a new oral history coming out this July from St. Martin's Press. It's Secrets of the Force, the complete, uncensored, unauthorized oral history of the Star Wars saga. So wherever you buy books, audio, and video, pick it up today, pre-order, and you can learn the secrets of the Force. And don't miss our oral history of Star Trek in stores now. And of course, nobody does it better. The complete oral history of James Bond in digital, hardcover, paperback, and audio. That is all. If you like Inglorious Trexperts, you're going to love our new Trexperts Briefing Room, where Darren and myself curate classic episodes of Star Trek with special guests from various Star Trek series talking about the episodes you love.
I think that sounds great.
I can't wait to do it.
Let's go see.
What episodes are we doing, Darren?
Well, we don't want to give it away.
Okay. Well, then you need to watch Trexperts Briefing Room wherever you listen to Inglorious Trexperts and on the new Trexperts Briefing Room podcast feed. Don't miss it. Coming intermittently in the coming weeks. Trexperts Briefing Room. It's what every real Trexpert needs.
If you're a fan of the 430 movie, you'll love Best Movies Never Made, hosted by myself, Josh Miller.
And Steven Scarlatta,
where we explore some of the greatest movies never made, like E.T. 2,
Johnny Quest,
Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian,
and Halloween 3D.
New episodes available every other Monday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, and this is dun 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 Shark Week.
Oh, I thought it was the from the New World Symphony.
Dun 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 Shark Week. Shark Week. They're coming for you. They're coming at you.
So they're coming to get you,
Barbara. They're coming to get. They're coming to get you, Roy Scheider. So welcome. Monday, it's Steve Melching.
Shark Week, I'll bite.
Oh, God. Tuesday, Darren Dochterman.
This was no boating accident.
Wednesday, Ashley Edward Miller.
I've always been afraid of going in the water, and I always will. I'll never forgive it for the death of my boy. I have no idea where that one came from, but there you go.
You're Mrs. Kintner now. Okay, and I'm Mark A. Altman. I'm handling Thursday. And, of course, you're back for another episode of the 430 Movie, where we curate fantasy theme weeks of classic films by theme. And this week, it's Shark Week. Boy, that's exciting stuff. These are, we've done Gangster Week. We Hold the Presses Week. We've done, great movies, Citizen Kane and The Godfather and all these. This week it's Shark Week here on the 430 Movie. We are in our fourth season.
All the time.
Oh, sharks.
I'm really curious to see where this episode goes because I have no idea.
I don't know, guys. I'm a little concerned about this episode. Look, let's be honest. There's not a lot of shark movies out there. And we challenged ourselves in the past when we've pulled through. Monkey Week, sure, we did that. But this could be our Waterloo.
I would argue there are too many shark movies. That's the problem.
There's an argument that's exactly right.
Yeah. So
too many and then not enough.
So having gangsters on your week is one thing, but you yell Shark Week.
You got gangsters on my week.
430 movie.
You got sharks on my gangsters.
Maybe we should just call it Murray Hamilton Week. But Murray Hamilton. On Monday, it's The Graduate.
It's Plastics Week here on the 430 Movie.
So, Steve, I want to ask you, why are people so fascinated by sharks? I mean, clearly this is something that absolutely captivates people. There wouldn't be so many shark movies if that weren't the case. And obviously, it's a hugely rated cable week in the middle of summer. People are just watching all these documentaries about sharks. They go to aquariums. Their favorite exhibit is the sharks. They watch West Side Story. They're rooting for the sharks. So what is it about a Shark Week or sharks that captivate people's imagination?
Well, I'm tempted to sum it up in one word: Jaws. Of course, Steven Spielberg's movie from 1975, not 1976, as I apparently erroneously said on a previous episode of the 430 movie. But I'm not quite old enough to remember much of a time before that movie was out. So I'm sure sharks always held some level of fascination with people because they're these, it just ties into our primal fear as a species of being eaten alive by something. There's something higher on the food chain that can take us down, and put that in an environment like the ocean. Like, sure, bears can eat you alive, but you could probably see or hear them coming. But, and you're swimming in the ocean, like, you're probably not going to see that shark coming, and suddenly, they're chomping on your feet or ripping off an arm or something, and you're in real trouble. So it plays into that primal fear of going into a space that we don't belong and can't survive in, and underneath that placid surface of water lies all kinds of horrors that could kill us.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica, but they don't beat sharks. Okay, Darren, what about you? You a shark aficionado?
Not especially. Sharks have never really bothered me because I just don't go swimming. So I remain the apex predator when I'm on land. And so it's an easy remedy, really. I mean, you don't need shark repellent if you're in the middle of the desert. So that's how I play it. Even when, Jaws was the big thing, in grade school in 75. And everyone was talking about, the sharks attack anybody. It doesn't matter, and they're not really looking to eat you. They just hit you and swim away. I don't care. I don't care about sharks. But that's okay because they are exciting in movie form. So luckily, we have a movie. I have to tell you, one of the great birthday gifts that you ever gave me, Darren, was when you gave me the bat anti-shark repellent. That was pretty awesome. Now, not to take anything away from Ashley, who gave me A Tale of Two Cities, but I have to say that bat anti-shark repellent was pretty awesome. Have you ever had any sharks coming around now?
Never since then.
See?
Nope. Not since you gave me that bat anti-shark repellent.
It works.
Yeah, and I didn't have to worry about exploding sharks or anything.
Right.
It's pretty great. So, Ashley, did you grow up, because you didn't grow up on the water, but did you grow up with a fear of sharks or fascination with sharks?
I definitely had a fascination with sharks. And it's funny, I'm thinking about what Steve said, but I'm putting it into a slightly different context, right? Because I've now, I've got 3 boys, okay? That's a lot of dinosaur. That's a lot of shark. And, I think the little boy fascination with both of those things comes from a very similar place. They're monsters. They're monsters that are real, but in their own way, they're safe. A shark lives out in the ocean, right? And there's a danger, maybe you might see one someday, but there's no real danger that it will eat you. It's just, like dinosaurs. They're extinct, unless, you visit Jurassic Park. But there's no real danger that they're gonna eat you. But it's sort of a safe way to kind of explore it. The other thing is, forget the fear. It's kind of awesome. I mean, they're big. They eat everything in sight, right? You kind of wish you had one as your best friend. And then you think, wouldn't it be great if you could put freaking lasers on their heads? Right? Isn't that what you want to do with a shark? And I think, we love sharks for all sorts of reasons, whether they, occupy some place that stands in for some primal fear, or we really think that they would be an excellent underwater laser weapon platform. Shark fascination is eternal and real and spectacular.
Well, and you mentioned dinosaurs. There's also the idea that sharks are one of the oldest surviving sort of species on the planet. They have evolved to be this perfect eating machine that maybe Darren will explain to us. Richard Dreyfuss is not going to make an appearance. Okay.
But I actually prefer Percy Rodriguez's description in the trailer for Jaws.
Yes.
Where what is it? God created the devil.
It's as if God created the devil and given him jaws.
There you go. There you have it.
But I'll tell you, I did grow up on the water. My family lived in Hawaii for over 3 years, and we would go to the beach, most weekends when it wasn't raining. So I spent a lot of time in the ocean swimming and body surfing and boogie boarding. And thank God my parents didn't let me watch Jaws at that point, although I might have seen it on television at some point while we lived there. And it was terrifying. You suddenly start, you're out there in the waves and you're like looking around like, what's that shape? Is that a shark? What's that?
Yeah. I think Gen X had it better than the baby boomers because the baby boomers went to see Psycho in the theaters. And so they were afraid of showers and wouldn't take showers for months, right? Which kind of sucks, which kind of explains a lot. Whereas we were afraid of sharks from seeing Jaws in the 70s. And okay, so you didn't go in the ocean. Big deal, It wasn't the same as being afraid of a shower. I mean, I have to say, for fans of this podcast who know my history at the Silver Gold Beach Club where they filmed The Flamingo Kid, I used to love nature. I used to go in the ocean. Hard for people who know me now. I love going swimming in the ocean. I loved right before the hurricane when the waves were really big and the undertow was pulling you out to sea. But I remember very vividly as a kid, a couple of times you couldn't go in the ocean because there were sharks sighted off Breezy Point. And there was pre-Jaws where you didn't care. And then there was post-Jaws where it's like, I'm not going near that water. I'm not going near the sand. I'll be over here at the snack bar. You know,
Mark, I think you've hit on a great low-budget movie idea here. Shower shark.
Yeah, totally.
I'll tell you, I was afraid.
Mark has dead eyes like a doll's eyes. There
were points when I was afraid to go in a damn swimming pool at night. Like, it makes no sense. There's no sharks in the freaking swimming
that's just
pool.
Dumb. That's just
dumb, Steve.
But I have a very active imagination. I was afraid of shower heads for a time after seeing War of the Worlds when the little Martian space machine thing, when the stalk went into the barn looking around for people. That reminded me of a shower head. So I was like afraid of my shower head for a while after watching that movie.
Wow. You know what's amazing? That, the people listen to the show because I think since none of us go to therapy, the show is therapy. And it's like, all the stuff is coming out and it's very interesting. So can you expand on that? How was that? Was that Freudian for you? Or do you prefer more Jungian interpretation? Okay.
Talk about
what's
water.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Talk about water, Steve. Water. What does that mean to you?
Yes.
The great subconscious.
It's funny because I mentioned this, a couple of weeks ago where I said, I wasn't allowed to see Jaws because even though it was PG, my parents thought I was too young to see it. But my wife's parents took her to see it at 6 years old.
Oh, wow. God.
And she was terrified. And her dad turns to her, who's a wonderful guy, by the way, I must say, with that caveat. He turns to her and says, well, just close your eyes. Okay,
well. It's truly astounding. I mean, few movies have cast such a long shadow as Jaws. I mean, have really had such an impact on people. And it's amazing that this is a movie made by, Steven Spielberg's a friggin' kid, It's one of his first movies. And, of course, all the famous stories of how difficult it was to make the movie and finish the movie, that it was such a monster, no pun intended, hit that really impacted and continues to impact people to this day.
Can we call it now, because we have picked Jaws on the show before, so for Spielberg week, so it's not eligible.
No.
Is it safe to say that any of the movies we pick will not be as good as Jaws?
I think it's very safe to say that.
Probably.
Almost.
But
definitely.
I think that's true to the spirit of the 4:30 movie, because Jaws would have never been on the 4:30 movie. It was on the ABC Sunday night movie, right? And the cheesy, crappy other shark movies would be on the 4:30 movie.
That's right. But we won't name them right now because there are so few.
They're more than you would think. But I'm sure Steve can attest to that. But you know, it's funny because Jaws not only, I don't think is only a great movie because there are amazing characters in it. And it's so interesting. They took this really pulpy potboiler of a novel by Peter Benchley and turned it into something way better than the source material, which is so rare. But it also, I have very fond memories. And I think Steve and Darren can attest this. It was one of the great laser discs of all time. Mm-hmm. When it came out, it was, I think, one of the first Universal Selects. Yeah. It came out on CAV disc in a giant box. I don't know how many platters, but not only was it amazing to see them, you know, the great, at the time, it felt like this revolutionary transfer, but the bonus features, which they're still repurposing to this day, were extraordinary. There was like this 2.5 hour documentary there. And they had all those deleted scenes because for years we would reference the deleted scenes from Jaws. I ain't going on that rusty old barge, Mr. Quinn. You know, and no one knew what we were talking about because we're literally quoting deleted scenes from Jaws. It was Quint's first mate, and it was just all this awful stuff. But I guess he was an Islander that they hired,
like non-actor.
And he's terrible, but it gave us such joy. And what's funny is when it came out on the first couple of DVDs, they didn't have enough room on the DVD to put all the deleted scenes. So it was like only that laserdisc. And for decades, we would still be talking about that. I ain't going on that rusty old barge, Mr. Quinn. It's just so funny. That was a great set.
Didn't it also come with a CD of the soundtrack?
Yes, it did.
Which was great.
I told you guys about, I think I did when we picked this. I don't know if I said anything on the actual podcast, but about the encounter that I had at the Gelson's when I was out shopping with my son. We were waiting to get some froyo. And there was a guy who was standing in front of me, and I was talking to Caden about something to do with work stuff. And he struck up a conversation with me, right? And came to pass, we found out that our paths had crossed working on Black Sails. That he had done a lot of practical visual effects work for the show. And he started talking about his career and how long, he had been working and, how he did a lot of stuff, with sharks. And he wanted to show me something. Now, at first I'm thinking, is this going to turn into that scene from The Twilight Zone with Dan Aykroyd? But it doesn't. He pulls out his phone. He shows me a photo. Now, I'm looking at the photo. And at first what I think is that it is a shot of two guys on a dock with a shark that they have captured and that they've butchered. And then I look closer. And what I realize is that one of the men is sticking out of the mouth of the shark. And then I realized the shark is not real. And the man is Robert Shaw. And the guy kneeling next to him is the guy I'm standing behind in line for the froyo, who is basically the handler for Bruce the Shark on Jaws. And that was one of a personal photo that Steven Spielberg had taken for him. And then he got developed. So this is like his own personal collection.
This is the man who was responsible for the movie going 100 days over budget.
Yes, absolutely. And it was so important that he did that. He apparently also was the guy in charge of the sharks in the Gilligan's Island episode where that was a thing.
Yep.
Right?
The shark is not working. The shark is not working.
I flipped out. I tried to be cool. I was totally cool in line. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, man, that's awesome. Fucking A. Yeah, right on. And then we're walking away and I'm like, do you have any idea who the that was? He's like, no. I'm like, God damn it. Trying to explain to him that he had just seen like this rare, almost probably never seen artifact of like this incredible moment in film history that was so important. Yeah. But you know what?
You're not gonna.
I have it. It's mine. I love that I have it. But wow, it's pretty crazy.
You're not going to say I'm sorry. You're not going to have that experience where you're living now.
I'm not. Well, at the rate people are moving out here, maybe. But I'm not. No, it's highly unlikely. But I had that experience.
It's a great story. I have to say, that even though, it's a shark movie from 1975, it kind of looms really large in its importance, to a lot of us who work in the industry, even though, we point out to, Star Wars and Close Encounters as being the seminal films. But the Jaws log, much like the making of Star Trek, was one of the great sort of behind the curtain reveals of like, this is a business where, this stuff doesn't just show up on screen. Because Carl Gottlieb was still is, avuncular and interesting and funny. So you read that book and you think, hey, I might want to be a writer. I might want to be, or Joe Owls, and work in that business. And how interesting when you peel back the curtain, and see the man behind the curtain. And the Jaws log is probably the seminal making of a movie book, from that era, and probably ever since. That
was something that was really fun. Like through the Writers Guild, I got to know Carl Gottlieb, who is such a nice guy, and I would run into him at the Guild sometimes. He'd say hi, he knew my name, and I've had lunch with him and a group a few times, and he's a totally cool guy.
Yeah, and I think also one of the other things I love about Jaws is that famous story of how, when they tested it, Spielberg didn't get the result he wanted from the reveal of Ben Gardner's head, when they find it, in the ocean. And so even with this giant budget and a huge studio movie, they still had to go and shoot it in a swimming pool and, steal a camera. And the fact that it was almost like what we would do with our student films, or when we were, shooting Super 8 in the backyard. They went into his swimming pool and shot this head, unbeknownst to Universal, and then cut it in, into the print, and made this really classic scene. But it's such a great message for filmmakers. It's like, even when you have every tool in the toolkit given to you, you still have to sometimes resort to guerrilla tactics. So
that was a totally different week. This is Shark Week. Gorilla Week was last season.
Don't remind me of that monkey business. Okay, so this is Shark Week. We're programming a week of classic, I won't say great shark movies, but or great white movies, but classic shark movies. And as always, we start on Monday with the writer for such shows as Star Wars Rebels, The Clone Wars, X-Men the Animated Series, and the co-host of Cartoon Barroom, Mr. Stephen Melching.
Well, hello there. No, so my pick for Monday, I'm going to kind of go straight down the middle, and I'm going to go with a shark movie that I think is legitimately good, maybe one of the better ones, maybe for my money, the best one since Jaws, also based on a true story, and I think it derives some of its power from it being based on a true story. As Jaws was sort of loosely based on a true story, or a true incident in the past. And I'm talking about 2003's Open Water.
Damn you, Steve Belching! You took my pick, you Klingon bastard!
Other people go on vacations and spend their days just laying around. We have a story we're going to be telling for the rest of our lives. That's a good question.
As we are stuck in the middle of the ocean. Oh, God. Oh.
It's okay. It's okay. This can't be happening.
Oh, my God.
Susan! Susan!
Oh God, something's rubbing against my foot. Are you alright? No, stay still. That's up. It's gonna be okay.
So this is a movie directed and written by Chris Kentis, starring Blanchard Ryan and Daniel Travis. It's based on the true story of Tom and Eileen Lonergan, who had gone on a scuba diving trip in Australia to the Great Barrier Reef with a large group of people. And due to sort of a snafu with the charter boat company, they got left behind at the Great Barrier Reef and were not discovered missing for 2 days. And of course, they were never seen or heard from again until sometime later when I think Eileen's torn wetsuit washed up on a beach hundreds of miles away, and some other artifacts were found, but no evidence of them was ever found. So this filmmaker did something very clever. He took that story, which I think preys on like deep fears. That's sort of like a Home Alone fear. Like you get left, you're out there with a group of people and you get fucking left behind in the middle of the ocean, and you have no way to call for help. You don't have a telephone or anything. You can't signal for help. You're maybe dozens of miles from shore, and you're just stranded, and you're just hoping that some passerby, some airplane or boat or something sees you, or you can signal someone. But it's very unlikely because you're out there in the open water. And another great thing about, they transplanted the location from Australia to the Bahamas somewhere, and one of the great things they did for this movie, it was so low budget, they couldn't afford visual effects. So they couldn't create like a CGI shark or build a mechanical shark like a Bruce. So they filmed everything with real sharks. And it's just this lean, mean, like 79-minute long, no frills, no BS movie filmed out on the ocean with real sharks and 2 people. It's one of those movies that keeps getting worse. Like as the hours tick by, the sun goes down, and then it's night, and they're out there in the middle of all that blackness at night with sharks in the water, and they start getting nibbled at by the sharks, and they're just terrified. They have no idea what to do or how to survive, and then the storm comes in, and the ocean gets rough. And finally, not to give spoilers, the charter boat company finally realizes they're missing, but it may be too late to do anything about it. And it was a film that was made for $500,000 or less.
$130,000
with, I think, some additional post money after that. It might have brought the budget up a little bit, but grossed like $55 million. I remember seeing it in the theater when it came out and being pretty impressed by it. And I think it's actually a really terrific, dramatic, scary shark movie.
Yeah, it's really well done. It's minimalistic.
It's harrowing, almost to the point of being unwatchable, but like in a good way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like not like, oh, it's bad. I mean like
being like I don't want to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, time to go. Sorry, guys. I know this is going to end so badly for you. I just got to, you know what? I'm not even wearing a watch, and then exit.
Like, unless you're Darren and you never go in the ocean, it's one of those there, but for the grace of God, go I,
right.
You can imagine yourself going on a snorkeling trip or something and being that poor sap that gets left behind.
Well, as someone who's been left behind, as we know from at the Museum of Natural History in third grade, I could relate to these protagonists. And it was absolutely my pick as well. I thought Chris Kennis did an amazing job. And it's also, it's a wonderful underdog story. He used his own money to finance it. He shot it on weekends, on holidays with his own equipment. He was a scuba diver, and his wife, who was the producer. And they sold the film to Lionsgate for $2.5 million. And then it got a theatrical release and did very well. And there are a couple of direct-to-video sequels that aren't worth talking about, but it's harrowing. As
I don't know, Mark.
Ashley.
It sounds to me like they lost out on at least $25 million from this story if they sold it for two. But it doesn't sound like a great story to me. It sounds like a studio taking advantage over some producers. That's what I hear. Sharks of their own.
they made it for $130,000 and sold it for $2.5 million.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they had back end on it too.
Well, who knows?
Okay, I think it's a happy story. I think it's a happy story. I'll take it.
I'll take a $2.3 million profit.
Me too.
I mean, it's no $25 million profit, but
Yeah, it's not.
What is? Well,
There's a lot of predators. There's a lot of predators out there, folks. A lot of predators.
Especially when there's blood in the water.
Coming from inside
Only
the
if you get in the water. But yeah, it's a great pick, Steve. I mean, it really is because so many of these movies I think we'll talk about stand in the shadow of Jaws. They were Jaws ripoffs or inspired by Jaws. Open water really is its own thing. And I think that's partly what's great about it. And it was that era of found footage movies, of which there's so few that are worth anything. They're, and Open Water is the best example. Well, it's not a traditional found footage movie.
Well, it plays like a documentary. It's a very documentary style, filmed on video, handheld. So that adds to the immediacy and the realness of it.
Yeah, it's a great little movie.
I'd recommend it. If you haven't seen it, I think it's on Amazon Prime. You can stream it on Amazon.
And Blu-ray. So on Tuesday, that brings us to Darren Dochterman.
Tuesday.
So the blood is in the water already. Now it's up to you.
Yeah.
All right, chums.
What's your pick, chum? Oh, God damn it.
You see, you got to jump in there. Take your freaking turn, Miller. Well, in 2004,
oh, shit.
Not all that long ago, but long enough, there was a little movie done by DreamWorks Animation called Shark Tale, Tale, not Tail.
From the studio that brought you Shrek, in every family,
This handing over the business is for you. You're acting like you don't even want it.
there's one who's different.
All I'm saying is the kid ain't exactly no killer. I want you to take Lenny out, show him the ropes.
Oh, come on, Pop.
Son, you're gonna learn how to be a shark. Hi. Little buddy is stuck there. I'm gonna get you out in a jiffy. Lenny?
Oh, gee.
Here's the thing.
I'm a vegetarian.
You're a good person.
Oh, no. In every food chain,
Nice of you to join us, Oscar. What's happening, baby? Looking good, ladies.
Hey, Oscar!
there's someone at the bottom.
On top, there's Don Lino. There's me. There's regular fish.
Then there's me.
I'm getting there. There's whale poo. And then there's you.
She's gonna blow!
Now, to change their destiny,
If you help me disappear, I'll help you become a star.
these two have the perfect plan.
You shark slayer! Ow!
Yeah.
On October 1st,
Does this mean you're now protector of the reef, the big kahuna?
Kid, you're a superstar. We're gonna make a fortune. Just let me handle it.
What a team, baby!
High fin, low fin. I want to know everything about him. Who is the shark slayer?
Will Smith, Angelina Jolie, Renee Zellweger,
What'd you expect? You just take credit for killing a shark and then everything be fine and dandy?
Ow, what the?
Jack Black, Martin Scorsese,
Hot.
and Robert De Niro.
You tell him my boys are gonna pay him a little visit.
Sharks are coming to get me!
You're blowing it, man!
What? Oh!
X circle, XX, double left, square right, trigger down, square, square. Hey!
Respect. Respect.
Shark Tale.
Oh, you're a liar.
All right, all right.
But the sharks don't know that.
Dun, 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 can't touch this. Dun, 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 can't touch this. Arr.
That should have been more popular than it was. It did pretty well, believe you me. But it had a all-star cast: Will Smith, Renee Zellweger, Jack Black, Robert De Niro, Angelina Jolie, and Marty Scorsese. And the animated shark that Marty Scorsese plays looks exactly like him, and it's really frightening.
It has the eyebrows and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
But it's very charming and it's fun. It's sort of, there are. Forgive me if someone has picked this one, but in Finding Nemo, they have a trio of sharks that are trying to quit the habit of eating fish, right? And fish are friends, not food. And the style of these characters are somewhat reminiscent of that because, big surprise, they look like sharks. So, but it's really funny, and it's a little more sort of stylized characters, but it's a lot of fun. And Will Smith's character is a fish that normally would be eaten by sharks, but he befriends the brother of the gangster shark boss, who is luckily a vegetarian. So it's a fun little kids movie, but it has enough in it that adults can find it entertaining as well. And as most of those animated movies in the early aughts, they were still finding their way, but this was very entertaining and very well done, and it looks beautiful.
That's a great and unexpected pick.
Yeah.
It was unexpected for me, too, because I was on the brink of Steve picking my movie, but
I saw your face. I saw your crestfallen expression. I'm like, oh no, he's going to do it to me again.
Because I had another one that is coming for Friday, but I decided on this one.
I agree. Like Shark Tale is super entertaining. I remember seeing it in the theater, and DreamWorks Animation did a really nice job with it. I remember it looked good, and you said terrific cast.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater, but I enjoyed it at the time.
Yeah, it's charming.
Well, I was surprised at how fast it dropped off the radar, though. It's probably because I don't have kids around the house anymore. That's probably why. And personally, I wouldn't buy it for myself, but I'd gladly stream it and watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, well, that's a really interesting and surprising
No witty comment, Mr. Miller?
No, and I'll tell you why, because this is just not how I thought this week was going to go.
No, I thought he was going to pick a movie he worked on, but apparently not.
I thought about it, but I think I had picked it before for something. I think we talked about it before.
Darren doesn't usually pick movies that he works on.
I try not to.
I know.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Like
well, that brings us to Wednesday. Anything can happen day. It's Ashley Edward Miller, and we stand this week was tailor-made for you, sir.
Now, I don't know if this movie's been picked before or not. I don't think I care because it's Shark Week, and our selection is it's so limited. But, having watched so many of these shark movies over the last week, trying to figure out what to pick, I've realized something. That is that nature can be lethal, but it doesn't hold a candle to man. Now, you've seen how bad things can get and how quickly they can get that way. Well, they can get a whole lot worse. So we're not going to fight anymore. We're going to pull together and find a way to get out of here. First, we're going to seal out this.
Wow, that was unexpected. The star of the podcast was in half right in the middle of it, the midway point.
You just got to look for the shark with a fin that says "bad motherfucker."
Exactly. Now, look, man, I don't know what this movie's about, other than the fact that it has something to do with research sharks, and
it's about 2 hours. That's what it's about.
2 hours long. It's got Saffron Burrows. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thomas Jane, better known as
Luminous.
the Punisher, also known as a guy I saw take a whiz in the pool at the U.S. Grant Hotel during Comic-Con. LL Cool J. And his mama said, knock you out. Actually, was that Tomok? May have been. And of all people, Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
But Samuel L. Jackson anchors the deep blue sea.
Tell me, Mr. Franklin,
Have you ever known anyone with Alzheimer's?
No.
What if you could end all that suffering with a single pill? Give me till Monday morning, 48 hours. I'll give you results that'll skyrocket your stock price.
In the most advanced research facility in the world.
Wow.
Beneath its glassy surface, a world of gliding monsters.
A team of specialists is working against the clock.
Did someone order the fish?
On an experiment to benefit mankind.
Sharks never show any loss of brain activity as they age.
We're this close to the reactivation of a human brain cell.
But before they can save millions of lives...
Tell me I didn't see that. They recognized that gun.
It's impossible. Sharks do not swim backwards. They can't.
They'll have to find a way to save their own.
Just what the hell did you do to those sharks?
Did you feel something?
Jim and I use gene therapies to increase their brain mass.
What is that?
As a side effect, the sharks got smarter.
Somebody, please, tell me what that is. Go! Go!
Rennie Harlin's opus from 1999 that began as a spec script from one of the writers, the first writer, Duncan Kennedy, who had, I guess he saw just an absolutely mind-bendingly awful shark attack on the beach. And he started having nightmares about being trapped in a corridor with sharks who could read his mind. And Hollywood saw the value in that. Right? And they made that movie. It has something to do with like making the sharks super smart because they're doing research on Alzheimer's. It doesn't make any sense. What's important is you are trapped underwater in a contained space. You are surrounded by hyper intelligent sharks that can read your mind. And there is only one way out and only one man who can save you. And that is Samuel L. Jackson. But he just gave his big, let's pull it together speech and got bitten in half. I have to tell you. When I went to see it in the theaters, I mean, I just kind of went to the movie to see a movie. But when that moment happens, if you have not seen this, and I spoiled it for you, okay, so F me. But if you did not know what was coming, and in 1999, my man, I did not know what was coming, it just...
Yeah,
it just blew my mind. It was absolutely, positively made it worth the price of admission. I've never seen anything in a movie like it before, never seen anything in a movie like it since. And that's why I say it doesn't actually matter what happens in the rest of the movie, because it gives the world that perfect cinematic moment, a speech that's amazing, delivered by, I can't think of anybody who would be better at delivering that speech and then getting bitten in half by a shark than Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, holy crap, guys. What else is there to say?
I have to agree, man. Like, there have been few times in my life when I've been in a movie theater and was taken by such surprise and delight. I had no idea it was coming. Sam Jackson is such a big, badass movie star. I had no idea it was coming. When that happened, the audience just erupted. And you had that great moment of, wow, I guess anything can happen in this movie. The only thing that in my mind that comes close is Executive Decision, when Steven Seagal, the nominal star, action star of that movie, is killed halfway through.
By a shark.
Yeah.
By a shark. Up in the sky somehow.
And Samuel L. Jackson has had enough of these sharks on this fucking plane. Yeah, that's the crossover I want to see.
Yeah. I have to say that this is that movie that Mark thought I would pick because I worked on it. It was one of the funnest 4 months down in Mexico I've ever spent. We were at the Baja stages of the studio that Jim Cameron built for Titanic, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great crew. We built this fun sort of half up and half down underwater habitat in the tank, and saying that it was a World War II secret submarine pen. Sure, I guess I believe it, maybe. But it was a lot of fun, and the guy who made the electric sharks, Walt Conte, also made the whales for Star Trek IV. But don't hold that against him. These are absolutely brilliant, and he was operating them above the water, and they're really scary above the water too. So whenever they make the flying shark movie, call Walt Conte.
I have such fond memories of that time because you would drive back on the weekends, and on Sunday night we used to always go out to Lola's, a group of our friends, and
this martini bar restaurant in Hollywood.
Before there were podcasts, we would sit and hold court and talk about movies and the toys we bought that weekend and the Blu-rays, the Laserdiscs, whatever. So, it was always like, Darren, you're going to get another apple martini? It's like, no, because, I got a long drive back to Baja.
I got to get up at 4 and drive down to Baja. I don't have nothing in Baja.
Yeah, and so every Sunday night, you could tell we were wrapping up. The chocolate chip cookies would get eaten. The mac and cheese was gone. The apple martinis were drunk. And Darren would excuse himself. He'd go to the valet, get his car, wave from the back
3 hours later,
finder.
I'd be winding my way down the 405.
Old Mexico way. Yeah, those were the days.
Couldn't do that these days. I wouldn't be able to take it.
Now, didn't they? Is it true that there was a sequel, Deep Red Sea, in development? I remember reading something about that.
I think there was, in fact,
there's a sequel, and it's Deep Blue Sea 2, and our friend
Darren Scott directed it.
Yeah. Was that?
Shot in South
I
Africa.
misremember. Is that about a skyscraper that falls over into the ocean and there's sharks getting at the people?
That was what was being developed as a big budget studio sequel.
Okay.
That never happened.
Right.
So about 2 or 3 years ago, the direct-to-video division, or streaming or whatever, greenlit, a lower budget version, Deep Blue Sea 2, which our good friend Darren Scott directed. And I haven't seen, but I hear it's a lot of fun.
I don't know if he cast the same sharks. I know that they probably need the work, but I hope so.
But I hear they all sort of held out and negotiated together, like the Friends.
Yeah.
That's a very Ashley pick.
They negotiated tax.
And it's like Shatner and Nimoy, and now the other shark has to direct the next sequel.
Right.
Wow. Well, that was a great pick, and I'm so glad because Darren got to share his memories of working on Deep Blue Sea. And that brings us to Thursday, boys and girls. So first, a big thank you to Steve Melching for picking my movie, which leaves me in a quandary. Because as you mentioned, there aren't a lot of great shark movies. But, I didn't have a list this week. I had one movie. And so now here we are on Thursday. So it leaves me with the obvious choice, which, of course, is George Wang's Swimming with Sharks with Kevin Spacey, Michelle Forbes. No, I can't do that, can I? Of course, that's about
we already picked
Hollywood.
I might try to get away with that, but I didn't.
Well, fine then. Then I will go with another movie about a dead shark, Annie Hall, in which
already picked it.
Oh, damn, I can't pick Annie Hall either. Because your relationship's like a shark. It has to always keep moving. And what we have here is a dead shark. No, those aren't my picks. You don't think I'd come to a gunfight with a knife? I'm prepared. I got a backup. So I'm gonna go with an Ashley pick. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
This is the movie that if Rick Dalton were real, he would have starred in. It's Enzo di Castellari's Italian opus, Great White.
Oh, little Caroline, I'm feeling feeling so lonely. I see you as the sun is going down.
Port Harbor is a quiet summer resort with its pleasure boat enthusiasts, skin divers, and windsurfers. It may be one of the most peaceful places on earth. But in the world of blackness, beneath these waves, there are no days, no nights, no seasons, only endless existence. And a being whose only thought since the beginning of time is his ravenous desire to feed.
Get on shore! Everyone out of the water!
Port Harbor has been invaded by the ultimate predator.
Coming right at us!
A beast against which there is no defense. Nature's perfect killing machine. The Great White Shark. Great White. The terror begins March 5th.
Made in 1981 and released in many foreign territories as Jaws 3. and retitled The Last Shark. The movie starred James Franciscus and Vic Morrow as Ron Hamer, who was basically Quint. And what was so great about this movie was it was such a Jaws ripoff that Universal got a cease and desist and not only got the movie thrown out of theaters, but shut down the whole company that distributed it. It's one of these Italian knockoff movies to capitalize on the thing. And it was such a pastiche of Jaws and Jaws 2. It's awful, but in a glorious way.
Of course, the Italians.
I mean, I'm telling you, Rick Dalton would have been great in it. I could see Cliff Booth getting eaten by the shark. When he's like surfing and he falls off his windsurfing and has to swim for shore and has his legs eaten. And who knows, maybe even Aldo Ray would have been in it. I don't know. But it was James Franciscus and Vic Morrow.
Well, I love the Italian title, L'ultimo squalo.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't know much about this movie for many years. But, I've mentioned on the show before, back in the late 70s, early 80s, I had a fanzine that I published. It's the equivalent of people having websites now. And so I was on the list to get all these press kits from the studios. So in the early 80s, I would get all this great swag. One of the things I remember getting from this company was this beautiful white press kit with the red letters, Great White. And it had all these stills and it had these giant production notes. And I'm like, oh my God, even then, I'm like, whatever, I'm 12 years old. This is the biggest Jaws ripoff I've ever seen, but I gotta see it. And then it never, as far as I know, it never opened in New York. I was always like, where's that Great White gonna open? And then, years later, I tried to see, did I imagine this? Was there really a movie called Great White? And I tracked it down and found it was now called The Last Shark. And it had been released in 1982. So, but the greatest
movie year ever.
The greatest geek year ever.
Yeah.
So, as fans of the podcast might know, and the upcoming documentary, but which I must say is going amazingly well. It's just like, it's great. I think for Shark Week to pick an exploitation classic that's an Italian cash-in on a huge American movie going thing. And I just love the fact that in these foreign territories, they released it as Jaws 3. I mean, it's like, could you imagine walking into a theater, it's Jaws 3, and then seeing this movie, Great White. I mean, it's just great.
It's bound to be better than the actual Jaws 3.
That's true.
Look, absolutely. And I mean, I remember that summer I was at Brown for that summer. We went to the movies one night, and I had this choice: was I going to see Jaws 3D or Krull? And I picked.
That's a no-brainer.
I picked Krull. So I to this day I've not seen Jaws 3D. So, but I have seen Krull.
Damn right.
So, there you go.
Laven.
Anyway, That's my pick.
Now I want to see this movie. This sounds insane.
The Last Shark. Not to be confused with The Last Starfighter.
Right. The Last Shark Fighter.
Remember that arcade game, though? Where you fought the shark?
Shark
and it was
Hunter.
like really Shark Hunter.
Shark Hunter.
Yeah.
It's featured in Jaws.
In Jaws, yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That was a cool game.
I think your definition of cool game in my...
Is it possible to actually see Great White on streaming?
Yes, it's not easy to find, but it's out there. If you look real hard and you can find them, you might be able to hire.
It's on the Italian Netflix.
I love it.
Netflix.
Oh my God, there should be Italian Netflix, and all it is knockoffs or Turkish Netflix. I'm like American movie.
You know what? That's like week. Italian Netflix week.
We should do that.
Knockoff week. Knockoff week on the 4:30 movie.
It's the Muppets.
At least we know that Great White will comfortably fit within the licensing budget of the 4:30 movie broadcast.
No question about that. Vic Morrow, always the mark of quality. So,
I'm not going to say the joke, so go on.
No, of course not. No. Look, we don't joke about that because that was a true tragedy.
Yes.
And that's not something that we should joke about because it wasn't just him. It was those two kids, you know, and that's not something. I mean, look, anything on the show we can joke about, but that's not something we should joke about. You know, I think I don't want to contribute to the coarsening of American culture, you know,
anymore.
We already
any longer. So great. So that's my pick for Thursday, which brings us to Friday. And I think there are probably still some interesting picks. I don't think we should go with Jaws, although we could, but you know, we picked it before. I think we can do better. And I think there are a lot of good options.
And even if we skip the sequels, Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, and Jaws the Revenge.
I wouldn't skip them. I would make a case for Jaws 2. Jaws 2 is not a great movie. You know, it's not compared to Jaws, but it's a great movie compared to Jaws 3 and Jaws 4. And it has such an interesting history. The whole idea that they wanted Spielberg to direct and he wasn't interested, and that, you know, Howard Sackler developed, you know, the story of the sinking of the Indianapolis, which would have been great. And they decided, no, we have to make it, you know, more like Jaws. But then they developed this really dark and sort of noir version of it. And John D. Hancock directs for a month before they decide to fire him. And then they go back and basically remake the first movie with the director of Supergirl. And
John knows work.
But, you know, the best thing, there are two great things about that movie, which may make it worthwhile. One is the tagline, the greatest tagline in the history of movies, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. Fantastic. Yep. And the second thing is John Williams' score, which is as good, if not better, than the first movie.
Definitely as good.
As good. Okay, fair enough.
You know what's funny? I mean, it's so funny you brought up Sean Swark, who directed Supergirl, who's basically done a lot of television. I can say actually directed one of my episodes of Fringe. Like, and it was all I could do not to go, just do Supergirl. You know, I just it blows my freaking mind. So I'm inclined to go Jaws 2 based on that alone. Although there is a part of me that thinks the right pick is Jaws the Revenge because it is just so bananas. It so encapsulates everything that's wrong with these attempts to kind of remake or redo Jaws, whether it's an official Jaws sequel or not. The shark wanted revenge. It hunted her to the Bahamas. The shark. Okay, the shark wanted revenge, and Michael Caine is in it, right? Wow. And it's like, there's that whole great story of like Michael Caine not being able to accept his Oscar
for Hannah and her sisters, which is why I can't get behind it as a pick. He missed his Oscar for Hannah and her sisters to make Jaws the Revenge.
But doesn't it kind of make that his winning that Oscar even more of a Hollywood moment? The fact that he missed it to make Jaws the Revenge. I've never seen Jaws the Revenge, but I have seen the house it bought for. I mean, come on.
I think we shouldn't let slip by the lower budget films that do a really good job of sort of telling this frightening water tale. And among those is 2016's The Shallows. about this surfer
Blake
who
Lively.
is only 200 yards from shore when she starts being stalked by a great white shark. And it's really good, actually. It's very scary. And it does sort of put you in that, much like open water, it puts you right in that experience, and it ain't pleasant.
That's the one that stars. That stars. What's her name?
Blake Lively.
Blake Lively.
Yeah.
About she's a surfer. They take her to some hidden beach that's inaccessible beach, and she's going to go surfing for the day, and ends up kind of being stranded there.
And the shark, played by Martin Scorsese.
In the Italian version.
She takes refuge on a coral head, but as the tide is coming in, the water level is going up, so the sharks will be able to get to her.
Yep.
It's actually pretty good. It's not bad.
Well, there's Spy Love Me. Jaws.
Yeah.
And he does fight a shark.
And you mentioned the Indianapolis. I think that somebody finally did make a movie about the Indianapolis called USS Indianapolis. Indianapolis. I never saw it, but somebody finally did dramatize that story. And then there's something, if you want to go all dinosaur on it, we've got the Meg.
Yeah.
Which is about the prehistoric super dino shark.
Right.
Which I haven't seen
Which
either.
would have been a better title.
Prehistoric super dino
shark.
Well, and then there's a succession of those sci-fi channel movies like Sharknado and Dino.
Oh my God! How did we freaking forget Sharknado?
Shark.
How could we? Don't we?
We didn't. We just talked about it.
It's on my list, and they made 6 of those damn things.
I know.
Everybody forgot about it.
Our friend Anthony
Ferrante directed those.
He made all franchise out of it.
Funny.
Sharks are in the sky. They're fighting people with chainsaws.
Well, no, people are fighting them with chainsaws. Sharks don't have chainsaws.
Not until the 5th one.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we got the shark. And then there was another one called 47 Meters Down. It was about some people trapped in a submersible.
Don't tell me. 47 meters down.
Yep.
Yes.
And there's sharks outside, so they can't try to swim to the surface.
And then there's lightsaber sharks. No, there's no lightsaber.
But it's Friday, guys. I mean, Friday should bring us joy. Friday should encapsulate everything that we like about the week, right? It should be like the film of the week to the extent that it can be. I don't think that means that we go ahead and we pick Jaws again for Friday, because I think in a way, any of our picks is essentially the same as picking Jaws. Like the only reason why we're even picking anything at all is because Jaws. But I think I kind of like the Jaws 2 pick. As much as I love kind of being all meta and weird with like Jaws the Revenge, I respect Mark's very intense feelings about this. What that shark took from him.
Let me throw out one more title then.
Yes.
The Shark Is Not Working.
The documentary
about the making of Jaws, a feature-length documentary. It's very thorough. It's a good movie.
And thorough.
Good pick. And thorough. It's a good documentary and thorough.
That's a really good idea, actually.
Actually, it is. It's a really great idea.
Because then we can have our cake and learn about it too.
Yeah.
Look, I like that documentary. I actually like the documentary on the DVD better, on the Blu-ray, the Universal one. They tell, obviously Richard Dreyfuss tells the same story in all of them.
Right.
But I could get behind that. I think Jaws 2 is a better pick, but I would totally support The Shark Is Not Working.
There is a feature alive today that has survived more than 3 decades of motion picture evolution. Without change, without question, and without equal. It lives to thrill, a timeless cinematic classic. It still attracts and captivates millions. It is as if Hollywood created the perfect motion picture experience and called it Jaws. The year was 1975. Audiences around the globe bore witness to the box office phenomenon that changed it all.
This movie crashed into people like a speeding truck.
Jaws, the terrifying blockbuster film by director Steven Spielberg, sent shockwaves throughout contemporary culture.
We're not going to swim anymore.
Shockwaves that continue to reverberate today.
I still get a little nervous in water, being like, is there a shark in here?
The shark is still working. We'll take you on a journey back to the beginning.
Making Jaws was the toughest filmmaking production experience I've ever encountered.
It's not going to be pleasant. The shark is not working.
Nothing's ever come close.
We're all living very frustrated summer. Our fear was that the shark wouldn't work on the screen.
To the extraordinary impact of Jaws on society.
I cannot tell you how many people have said, because of Jaws, I will not go in the water to this day.
Entertainment.
Anyone who's around my age who's in this movie business always kind of cites Jaws as the movie that made them want to get into movies.
And shark science.
I have heard from a bunch of marine biologists that the number of people interested in the study of sharks has doubled or tripled since Jaws was released.
To the picture's unquestionable legacy that abounds through the passionate expression of its fans.
I still remember the first time that I saw Jaws in the theater and how it affected me. It absolutely changed the direction of my life in one night.
Exclusive interviews with Steven Spielberg, Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, Peter Benchley, and many others give insight into what made this beleaguered fish story one of Hollywood's critically acclaimed and enduring cinematic successes. Just when you thought you knew everything there is to know about Jaws. Now comes The Shark is Still Working. The impact and legacy of Jaws. See it before you watch Jaws again.
It's a good documentary about a great movie.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Let's do it. Okay, let's do it. The shark is not working. Right, Darren? What is it? What movie are we picking?
We're picking the shark is not working because the shark was not working.
And that's a week.
I said, Stephen, if we're going to be out on the water for this long, why not film me a little more and film the shark less? And that's exactly what happened. So everything went fine.
Get me another bottle of rum, you bastards.
I got that one beat.
Yeah, well, you know what? For all our trepidation about this week, this is a pretty good week.
I gotta say, I think we pulled it off.
Once again. And the good news is they're not going to prosecute.
All right, let's drink to your leg.
On that note, Monday, Steve Melching,
Monday is Chris Kentis's low-budget thriller, Open Water.
Tuesday, Darren Dochterman.
DreamWorks Animation's Shark Tale.
Wednesday, Ashley Edward Miller.
You know, water moves pretty fast, but ice moves even faster. My pick for Wednesday is Rennie Harlin's 1999 magnum opus, Deep Blue Sea, starring Samuel L. Jackson.
Thursday, it's Enzo G. Castellares, Great White, a.k.a. The Last Shark, with James Franciscus and Vic Morrow.
The shark, she is a work.
Grazie.
It's a working shark to you, buddy.
And on Friday, the shark is not working. The shark is not working.
Actually, it's The Shark is Still Working is the name of the documentary.
Oh, is that it? Is that the name of the documentary? Yeah. The Shark is Still Working?
Yep.
I think I saw the other documentary. The Shark is not working. No, but that's it. I think we know the guy who made that too.
Yeah.
Michael Rohde, right? Yeah, it's a good documentary. It's a good pick. And I'd rather give him the nod than Jeannot, the director of Supergirl.
No, Zwark. Zwark Week.
And it's interesting because I'm sure you've all heard the story that apparently Spielberg, I guess, was going to, after directing Close Encounters, they went back to him and said, we really want you to do Jaws 3 after they fired Hancock. And Spielberg said he'd do it, but he couldn't do it for a year until he was finished with post on Close Encounters. And so he said, no, we're just going to go ahead without you. And you think they'll ever remake Jaws? I know people keep talking about it and Spielberg's put the kibosh on it. I hope they don't.
I don't think they will. It's just one of those things.
I just don't want to. I'm not a fuddy-duddy. I'm not precious about that, but I really don't see how you can do better.
There's no.
Yeah. Plus, it's one of those movies that I feel like, and I maybe, but a lot of things had to go right. A lot of things went wrong in exactly the right way.
Unless
that can't be replicated. And it reminds me of Casablanca, right? Like you can't remake Casablanca because Casablanca is the story of how a bunch of happy accidents produced a great film.
Here's the twist. You do Jaws from the shark's point of view about all these people. He's pushed out of his home.
All he wants is lunch.
All he wants to do is survive. And there's all these interlopers getting into his yard. And how does he fight to survive?
Like Gran Turismo with shark. Can we get Clint Eastwood?
But didn't we learn from Jaws 2 that the shark was a female?
Yeah, but we didn't because that was
Gracie is pregnant.
I feel like we're in the Player 2 now. I feel like we've just gone into it's The Graduate Part 2. I feel like, it's from the shark's perspective. It's his POV the whole time. And and we can use footage of Roy Scheider from the previous 2 movies. No one will ever know.
Yeah, but just covered in water for a little bit and then he goes back down.
Because, that was the other thing. Roy Scheider did not want to do Jaws 2. And of course, he owed the studio movie a couple. And then so to get out of his contract, he did Jaws 2, which got him out of the contract with Universal.
Roy Scheider didn't want to do a lot of things.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, he was a handful. So, anyway, I heard on the Sequest stories are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we won't talk about that now. We'll talk about that at Lola's. Oh,
Sequest.
Wait. We already did Under the Sea Week, but Under the Sequest, that's to come. So really,
is next week going to be Shower Week for the Boomers?
Yeah, that's right. But this was a great week. This is a fun week. I'm glad, we're enjoying the summer as we count down to the end of the 4th season. It's nice that we could, get Shark Week in there.
Absolutely.
So great. But we'll be back with an all new episode of 430 Movie next week. Of course, if you're a fan of this podcast, we'd appreciate you rating us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can also watch us on the Electric Now app. Download it today. It's free at your favorite app store. And you can watch episodes of the 430 Movie as well as your other favorite Electric Surge podcasts, as well as episodes of Leverage and Librarians and the new Leverage After Show exclusively on the Electric Now app. And of course, you can follow us on the 430 Movie podcast feed on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram, where there's all kinds of great bonus content courtesy of Patrick Macias. So thank you, Patrick, for curating our wonderful Instagram feed. Always some fun stuff there if you're a fan of kitschy kind of movie stuff. And we want to thank our great sound mixer, Mark Rivera, who's been doing such a terrific job. And as I said before, our number one fan. And not in a misery kind of way. Okay. He's like a great enthusiasm, great notes on the episode. He's really done some cool enthusiasm. So we thank Mark, who has been working so hard in this pandemic to make us sound so good. And of course, our audio producer, the great Bill Ritter, who continues to oversee the proceedings and do such a great job. And we're grateful to Bill and our associate producers, Zach Raggets and Peter Holmstrom, as well as our producer, Natalie Muscali. So until next week, when we return with an all-new theme week, on behalf of Steve, Darren, Ashley, and myself, Mark A. Altman, Eyewitness News starts now.
This show was produced by Dean Devlin and Mark A. Altman and is an Electric Surge Network production.